Are you winning, son?
We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have
Everyone's got a
phones,
phone.
right?
You can play on your tablet too.
Hey look, another video about a market crash. This time, there's actual financial repercussions. So, video games. One of the greatest behavioral sinks known to man. You play them, I play them, everyone plays them. And we're all worse off for it. It is my belief we are staring down the barrel of another video game crash. And just like the early 80s, PC and Nintendo will be the only survivors. Screen cap every frame of this video for when I'm proven right in 5 to 10 years. A bit of history. It's the early 80s, action stars are popping up left and right, the American economy is booming, and everyone is addicted to cocaine. Outside of the usual entertainment avenues such as Hollywood movies, TV shows, and VHS pornography, there was a new and upcoming visual medium that put you, the consumer, in control. That's right, assassinating the president. Video games. With this new confangled technology, the power to control your entertainment was a button push away. Why, think of all the amazing things you can create. Worlds of wonder, immersive action previously unexplored, creativity unbound by physical limitations. The world of video games in the very late 70s to early 80s can be described with one eloquent phrase.
What a piece of fucking dog shit!
You see, quality control had yet to be invented, and we were all suffering for it. In today's market, you have the big four. Three. Only 3 companies really have a console platform of note. In order to get your game on 1, 2, or all 3, it's subject to quality control. Usually. However, back in the day, the development company usually also made their own consoles. On top of that, their games were entirely exclusive to their own consoles. Now, this isn't too far off from today. If you want to play Halo, you get an Xbox or PC. If you want to play Last of Us, you get a PlayStation. If you want to play Mario, you get a Nintendo. However, due to only 3 major companies making consoles today, it's not nearly as saturated as it was back in the day. Here's a list of every console in the US from the late 70s until the crash. Fairchild Channel F, RCA Studio 2, Atari 2600, Bally Astrocade, APF-MP100, Champion 2711, Interton VC4000, Magnavox Odyssey 2, APF Imagination Machine, Intellivision, Arcadia 2000, ColecoVision, Atari 5200, Vectrex. That's 14 consoles, all by different companies, each with their own library of games, and little to no cross-compatibility. That would be like today having to own a separate console for Halo, Grand Theft Auto, Batman, Call of Duty, Battlefield. Wait. No, scratch that. It's exactly the same. We have to have a launcher for EA, Ubisoft, Rockstar, Epic Games, Battle.net. History sure does rhyme. Hopefully this is painting a vivid picture of why the market crashed. Not only were you getting 14 consoles over the course of only 6 years, each one had its own library only playable on itself. And to add insult to injury, the games themselves were, well,
What a piece of fucking dog shit!
the crash would result in pretty much all of these companies going out of business. Out of all the American brands, Mattel, Atari, and RCA are the only ones left that exist in any sort of fashion, and they sure as hell don't make video games or consoles anymore. Well, technically Atari still makes games only because Activision was founded by one of the members of Atari. It wouldn't be until Nintendo, a toy company exclusive to Japan at the time, came in clutch with the NES and saved the video game market single-handedly. Yeah, Atari was still kicking, but their slow and painful death was happening. With a semblance of quality control, Nintendo was able to make an environment of healthy consumer practices. At least back then. If it didn't have the Nintendo seal of quality, you had an idea that you might not be getting the best product in the world. It allowed the consumers to make an informed decision on how to spend their money. it wouldn't be until about 2 years later a challenger to the throne would appear. Sega. In other words, Nintendo, but edgier. Sure, you had other consoles in the background, but that's the thing. They were in the background. No one, and I mean no one, cared about LJN Video Art, Video Smarts, Atari 7600, Atari XEGS, Action Max, Viewmaster Interactive Vision, TurboGrafx 16, so on and so forth. Sega and Nintendo would be the major players until 1994, when Sony, ironically after a raw deal with Nintendo, decided to upset the balance and drop the PlayStation. This console alone shook the market so hard it killed Sega only 2 years later, at least as a console manufacturer. After this, it wouldn't be until 2001 that a third competitor would enter the ring, with Microsoft introducing the Xbox. And this is how it's been for the last 20 years or so. Stadia isn't real. History lesson over. Now time to come to the abysmal present. You there, yes you, lowly peasant whose dopamine receptors are too blown out to wait 3 to 4 years for a product. Would you like to pre-order a 1/4 finished game? Would you like day 1 patches the same size or bigger than the game itself? Would you like the same game, resold to you every year with a marginally improved set of graphics and polygon count? Do you enjoy buying in-game currencies with real money for a game you already paid $60 to $70 for? Do you enjoy 6-hour guided experiences with empty open worlds and prologues that last more than 2 hours so you can't get that Steam refund? Well, do I have good news for you. Welcome to the modern video game market.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Turns out, games peaked in the 7th generation, and it's all been downhill from there. Remember when games came out in a finished state? Day 1? Remember when all features were available at the start? Remember when game-breaking bugs weren't intentional? Well, Bethesda doesn't know anything about that last part. When people like me say, games were better back then, we legitimately aren't wearing nostalgia glasses. We actually got products that were finished and ready to be played. I feel sorry for the newer generation, only really knowing broken, crumbling frameworks of what could have been decent games. After the first video game crash, barely finished, bugged-out games were usually only made by obscure developers or by a bunch of laughing, joking numbnuts. These days, the titans of the industry, EA, Ubisoft, Activision, and others, have become the very trash they used to be set apart from. Remember when CDPR said Cyberpunk would come when it was ready? And then Microsoft showed us how loud money talks? It still hurts. See, in the vain and hollow pursuit of quick money, game studios have decided that it's entirely acceptable to put out software that's generously 40% done. Don't worry, you can pre-order the $200 collector's edition that comes with some cheap plastic injection molded figurines and 1 season pass. What a deal! This kind of behavior would have made you go bankrupt 10 years ago. But now they get away with it day and night. And to be honest, it's not actually entirely the studio's fault. Some of the blame goes on the players. See, you and me were too bored to wait 2 to 4 years it takes to make a good game, and demanded it today. Studios heard us, and they did what any other good profit-driven company would do. They filled that market demand. Kinda like how OnlyFans exists because there's a market willing to buy it. See, in our demand for non-stop entertainment, we forgot about quality over quantity. And that's why Madden, FIFA, and Forza even exist. That's why the MCU exists. That's why Call of Duty comes out every year for the past 20 years. That's why Assassin's Creed sucks. That's why Far Cry sucks. That's why Halo died. No, wait, scratch that. 343 had years between each entry and still screwed it up.
I'm not coming with you this time.
What?
I need to stay here. I only held enough back to get you off the ship.
No. That's not... We go together. She stayed behind.
It's already done.
I am not leaving you here. She stayed behind.
John. I've waited so long to do that. No.
Cortana, please. She stayed behind.
Well, that's pretty bad when the game causes eye strain and you can't even fucking look at it.
See, in the 80s, you could argue that it was due to amateur companies that the market became oversaturated with lackluster products. This time, we don't have that cope. It's the AAA studios that are now pushing out wireframes of boring, uninspired trash. We can't look to current Bungie, Bethesda, CDPR, Rocksteady, Microsoft, or Sony to deliver us from shit. Because they are what we need delivering from. But they swear this next game will be better. Trust them, the multi-million-dollar faceless corporation that really wants to get rid of physical media. Because... Now, there's a reason I've been singling out Sony and Microsoft in this. Because they're showing the most signs of not lasting through this next crash. Now, Microsoft still has its PC market to fall back on when Xbox inevitably becomes PC Lite for people who use laptops they can't game on. Sony doesn't have that market. If people are unwilling to make a free PSN account for Helldivers 2, myself being a part of that crowd, that does not bode well for this company. Sony is acquiring fewer and fewer reasons for people to get a PlayStation all the time. There is literally no exclusives on the PlayStation that I care enough to buy a console specifically for. Bloodborne is the only exclusive I even remotely want to play, and I'm not getting a PS4 just for that. It's not a console seller for me. Neither is The Last of Us. I already have my story-driven game. And what's better is that it isn't just a movie disguised as a walking simulator. It's called Halo, and it lives on PC now. See, Nintendo learned from the 80s how to maintain relevance in the gaming world. Make your first-party games must-haves, and make them only available through your consoles. Or emulators. PC will never die. That's what games are made on anyways. Without PC, you don't have video games to begin with. See, if I want to play an Xbox game, I can just play it on PC. If I want to play a PlayStation game, well, usually I don't care to, or I just need to wait a year for the Ultimate Edition to come to PC. If I want to play a Nintendo game, I just emulate it. Well, since there's no Switch emulator right now, I get a Switch. Funny enough, anyone who has bought an Xbox Series X or S could have just saved up an extra $200 to $300 and built a fairly competent gaming rig. Then guess what? You have access to nearly every PC game in history. You have a good portion of Xbox's library. You have nearly all of Nintendo's library up until the Switch. You have an ever-growing library of Sony games. Invest in PC now. You'll be less burned by the second crash. I got out of the console climate a few years after Xbox One, and I never looked back. Also, side tangent, cheating in multiplayer, unless something is done about it, it'll probably kill multiplayer as a whole, which, if that doesn't destroy the market itself due to not being able to justify live service games, could lead to a resurgence of single-player games. Actually, on second thought, accelerate the cheating problem. There are no downsides to this.